Dick is a warrior. He went to war in 1944, and he fought for these liberties. He was ready to give his life, and he's here basically to tell us about his views of what has been happening to his country since he came home in 1945-46. And he has some very strong opinions on what is to like and what is not to like about the current situation. So we have asked him to come and asked him to join some of these campaigns because he has a very, very unique way of saying it, and he lived it. And he was prepared to stand and to die for these values. So Dick, all yours.
Oh, I was prepared to die along with the millions and millions of others. They did their job too. But thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here, and it's been an honor to listen to our speakers, and you stole half my speech. But and it's also a very great pleasure to meet Salim. Is this working?
Yes.
Okay. And you know, he and I have read his book twice, and we're both exactly on the same wavelength. We think alike. But I had trouble with the title, I must admit, of his book. Because when I first saw that title, A Delectable Lie, I said to myself, what does he mean by that? And towards the end of the book, the second reading, I understood. But before that, I understood too, because what happened was that delectable word was in my brain. And then I remembered, back when Ethel Merman was singing, she was singing a happy love song, comical, about herself. And she's on stage. And she sings to her lover. And they're middle-aged, you know. So what she sings is this, excuse the voice, but she says, please, wait a minute, please be kind, please be sweet, she says, my chickadee. And when I kiss you, please say to me, it's delightful, it's delicious, it's delectable, it's delirious.
Bravo!
Now, isn't that exactly what our politicians were telling us about multiculturalism? They were telling us it's a sweet kiss. It's a lovely thing. It's delicious, it's delectable, it's delightful, it's all you ever wished for, when in fact, it was a terrible, evil lie, and it was like Medusa with the poison snakes for hair, and every time you cut one off, 3 more grew out. Yeah. And that is why I think Salim's book is exactly on at the right note. A Delectable Lie, that's what it's all about. Now, what I'd like you to do for a minute is think back to the troop ship landing in Halifax, the Halifax dock. Now, the troops are coming out that gangplank and down, and people are watching and laughing and crying and meeting their wives and sweethearts, very emotional. And I leaned down, I was one, and I rubbed the ground, and I said, thank God I'm back. This is wonderful. This is a great country. And we were proud. We didn't worry about anything then. We had a set of values that we fought for. We didn't go overseas to fight for our health care program. We didn't go overseas to fight for our welfare. We used to call it the bogey in those days. Do you remember? So anyway, we didn't do that. But 2 days later, I'm marching up to Toronto with 1,000 soldiers just back. The bands are playing, the flags festoon all of the buildings. They were the financial center of Canada. All the restaurants, all the lampposts, Union Jacks, and the red end sign of Canada in equal numbers. And they are, or were, our battle flags. And we were proud of that. Not because they were red, they had a Union Jack, but because they represented what we fought for. Now, when we got up to the University Avenue Armories, and they're gone now, the Premier of Ontario welcomed us and gave us a little speech, and then the Mayor of Toronto did the same, and the crowd clapped politely. But in the meantime, the children rush into the group of people, and the wives grabbed their husbands. And you know, a lot of those men were overseas for 6 years. They hadn't even seen some of those kids that were born after they left. So, and some of the young kids they were teenagers now, they're adults when they got back. So anyway, we were dismissed, we went home, and we got to work, as we were asked to do by our colonel when he dismissed us. He said, go back, do a job, just as you did before. So we did. We learned jobs, we went back to our education program, we reintegrated with our family, we got busy, very busy. In fact, there are a few I saw in this room that are part of the busyness. We created a baby boom. And the one thing we didn't do is worry about our government, because our government were to be trusted. They upheld the same laws we did, and from what they did during the war, which was fantastic, they mobilized the whole of the country and got it behind the war effort. Fantastic. We trusted our leaders. We didn't think about politics. We were just working hard. And then all of a sudden, what I call the great train of freedom of Canada, roaring into a great future, was sabotaged and came to a resounding screeching halt. And who were the saboteurs? Well, the saboteurs were Prime Minister Pearson, to begin with, in 1963, and in 1967, Prime Minister Trudeau. Now, what did these people do? They did the thing that they shouldn't have done. They talked, or at least Pearson started it, he wanted a bicultural and bilingual continent of Canada. And culture. What did he ever raise that for? That was a no-no in Canada. You didn't talk about culture. And of course that morphed into multicultural, because some of them had already said, hey, there's more cultures than just the French and those English, you know, the British. We're part of this. The Ukrainians said that. The Japanese said that. The Chinese said that. The Jewish people said that. So, what do we have? Now we got lobby groups. We got tribes fighting tribes. Shouldn't have been raised. Now I want to show you a picture. A little picture here. If I can find it. This is the story of men around the campfire overseas. This is in Germany, and it's our bunch with our sergeant major and a bunch of guys, and we're all around a big pot boiling pork, soft pork, which we liberated from a German smoked chimney stack, because in the farmhouses they had that's where they smoked their meat. There was a big door, and so we all went in and we used to make ourselves, full of very good food. But you had to boil the salt out, so we're all around this pot boiling salt. That's what we're doing. But we were talking about the German Aryan race and how they were going to create this great pan-German culture. And there was culture this and pan-German that and Aryan race and the whole thing. And here's Pearson, he's talking about culture. Well, our sergeant major, that's him on the end. Tambora was the name, Italian instruction. And the sergeant major said, wait. He said, when we get home to Canada, he said, the first person I hear say the word culture, I'll shoot the bastard. That's a fact. I never forgot it. Anyway, and then of course that morphed into multiculturalism. Just exactly what it was. And they began to sell all those sweet lies. You know, it's wonderful, it's marvelous, it's delicious, and so forth. And then they came up with the thing that said, oh, all cultures are equal. They passed the Multicultural Act of Canada. And that's what it says. All cultures coming to Canada are exactly the same value. Well, they're not. Listen, I went to Kenya in Africa. I went to the Masai Mara. I talked to the natives with spears there. I walked into bullshit. Excuse me, it was bullshit. And that's where they bring the cows into their villages, and they're all surrounded by thorn bushes to keep the lions out. So the cows sleep with them all night, and they're living in mud huts around the corner. That's equal to the Canadian culture? Come on, they're back 5,000 years. So there are differences, and you can't say that. It was a horrible insult. It made us mad. Then they said we were a piece of colored tile. All the cultures in Canada were just a piece of colored tile, a mosaic. We made a beautiful picture together. That's the diversity we were talking about. Not possible. Because what happened is, Canadian culture, all the things we fought for, all the things we believed in, what do you guess? Well, we were in this little tiny piece in the corner, the color blue, I think. You get the picture? We're not there. So next they told us, oh, don't worry, we're all immigrants. No, we're not. There were pioneers here that settled this place. There were soldiers that served their time here and then discharged and got land grants. We weren't all immigrants. There was no immigration office. And we're descendants of those people too. I mean, we're all still here. We're all still here from the Plymouth, when the ship landed in Plymouth in 1620. Because it was New England and New France, there was no border. So our history stems back a long way. 1607, 1609, and the French and English settled this continent. The French didn't. They stayed in the Samoan area. But the British and the English did in the 13 colonies. So, okay, let's go on a little bit. How are they going to sell this stuff? Because we're getting mad. Oh, and they're getting upset. Oh, well, okay, let's have the Human Rights Commission. Let's look into this. So they did, and they got these tribunals going. And what do these tribunals do? Well, they crush every value we ever had. You can't speak freely. You have no rules of evidence. Hearsay, people talking about what somebody said three people ago, is evidence in those courts. They're a travesty. And when I saw them pass that in every province of Canada and the National Human Rights Tribunal, I couldn't believe it. I was devastated, and I wrote, and I phoned, and I did everything to try and stop it. But no way, because they had to suppress us. They had to keep us quiet. Don't say anything. Don't insult one of these new group of people, because you can't hurt their feelings. If you hurt one, you've hurt the whole group. You know, how nonsensical can you get? So what happened was they started to resell the whole thing. Hey, they said, you know, what's a Canadian? And I started saying, oh, well, there is no such thing as a Canadian culture. Well, what's our culture? And somebody mentioned it. Well, we're not American. We're not them gun-toting guys from Texas. No, we're not American. Can't be that. But what we are is a beautiful, kind, and caring group of people. Not warriors. We're peacekeepers. Not warriors. For God's sake, we lost 100,000 people fighting 2 wars. Not warriors. And those were mostly civilians turned soldiers, so we are warriors. The other thing is, I guess, finally, you know, that really got me as a soldier. They said Canada was a blank slate. Canada was a blank slate. There was no culture here. Hey, they didn't tell the Quebecers that. Hell no, they got a strong culture. Keep everybody else out. So the thing was, I got mad. I really got mad about that one. We're a blank slate. Just come and raise your culture here, right? And then they went ahead and they put in Trudeau did, he put in his charter. And guess who signed that charter? There were 4 people signed it. Queen Elizabeth II and 3 Frenchmen. Trudeau, Chrétien, and a guy named, no, it wasn't Pelche, Ouellette. Yeah, it was like This guy named Andre Ouellette, and he was the Registrar of Canada. So they all came from Montreal. They all had a different idea. And what about this charter? Well, what does it include? A lot of us understand what it includes. Free speech, you got the right to speak freely. Freedom of religion, you got that right. But the wrong is, number one, they're telling you what your rights are. Wrong. Because Magna Carta in 1215, which was mentioned here, began our rights. And it took 800 years from that time, including chop off King Charles's head, to tell the people, tell the rulers that we, the people, run the show, not you. Our parliaments run the show. So they did the wrong thing. That's the beginning. The second thing was they put in group rights. They said that any person that has a different color skin, or any person that's of a particular ethnic group, or anybody with a strong nationality that doesn't behave the way we do, or anybody that's sexually oriented, or whatever. And that was written in, of course, by the judges. But the thing was, they started what we had never believed in, which was an affront to all of us. Because they said, when these people get off the airplane, as soon as they get off the airplane, this applies. They come from backward countries, they come to a wonderful country, but they're disadvantaged. So in that section 15, subsection 2, it says this. It says, you may make laws or plan programs to ameliorate the condition of disadvantage experienced by those who are defined by their skin color, their race, their sex, their sexual orientation, their nationality, or whatever. Now, take a look around. If there's anybody in here, excuse me, if you've got a face that's not white, you come in here with a different set of laws to live under than we do. Now, Salim made it very clear. All our laws were always based on individual rights, and everybody has the right to live under the rule of law. Nobody is above the law. We're all subject to the same laws. Neither prince nor pauper is above the law. Rich man or poor man, none are above the law. And that has always been the case. Okay, now about free speech. Free speech, and how do we handle all this? Because what's happened is, into this witch's brew has come an entirely new group of people who have a very intolerant religion. Most of them came here for one purpose only. They're called Muslims. And their idea was to come here, have a better life, get free of a lot of the nonsense going back on in their own places. You've heard that tonight. And adapt to this country. Have a great time. Enjoy the beaches and enjoy the foods and enjoy the freedom to follow your path of life however you will. The majority do. Unfortunately, the religion itself and its precepts, with Sharia law dominant as a system of law or politics, if you like, it doesn't permit that. But they look at Canada and say, hey, it's a blind sight. They want a new set of laws. They want a new set of precepts, a new set of things to live by. We have Sharia, so let's offer them that. So that's exactly what they did. And we darn near have it in the province of Ontario, as you know. 2 minutes? Okay, how do we cope with this? The first thing is we've got to teach our children. And I think that was said already. We've got to get it into their guts. We've got to get it into their souls. And they have to teach their children's children. It's going to take time. Because you don't know a bad law coming down the pike if you don't know what your principles are. So you've got to teach them about the human rights of life. You've got to teach them about free speech, express your views. You've got to teach them that everybody's equal before and under the law. And justice is blind. And you've got to tell them all those things. You've got to know them by heart. And I'm just going to tell one more story before I close, and that is this. When I was 10 years old, and some of you, maybe approximate back there, in the schoolyard, you would hear any boy, because those boys that usually fight, you would hear in the schoolyard some young boy, maybe 10, like I was, and they'd say, "Shut up, I'm not going to shut up. I am a free person and I live in a free country." And that's what they'd say. Where did that come from? It didn't come from books. It came from how they were raised. And that's what we have to do. We have to impart our values, which you know as well as I do, into their very heart and soul. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your time. I hope you've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed expressing my views freely without fear or favor. Goodbye.